Hey guys, sorry that I've had to miss 2 days this week, but we're going to go on with math, and I know that you would rather hear it from me than a sub, right? So here we go. Here is your first problem. It says, Rick needs to write a 4-page paper. On Monday, he wrote 1 1/4 pages. On Tuesday, he wrote 2/3 of a page, and on Wednesday, he wrote 1 2/3 of a page. How much of the paper does he have left to write? So this is what I want you to do. I want you to take a minute and work out the problem, and then when you get done working it out, or if you're not quite sure and you've tried for a minute, I want you to come back and watch how to do it. But for now, I want you to mash pause and then come back. Okay, so I hope you took a minute and worked it out, or at least tried to work it out. So I'm going to show you a couple different ways that we could approach this problem, and maybe you tried it one of those ways. So if we think about this on our model, we've got our whole 4 pages, that he has to write. And on Monday, he wrote 1 1/4. That's Monday. And then on Tuesday, he wrote 2/3. Tuesday, 2/3. On Wednesday, he wrote 1 2/3. So right here is how much do we have left to write. So one way we could approach this problem is to add up what all he's read so far and then see how much more we need to get to 4 pages. So we could say 1 1/4 plus 2/3 plus 1 2/3. So when we add this, we notice right away that we have 4ths and 3rds. So we can't just add this up like it is. But we do have 3rds and 3rds. So we could put the 3rds together first. So if we put just these two together, 2/3 plus 1 2/3. So 2/3 plus 1 2/3. So let's just take our whole and put our whole aside for a minute. And, I'm just going to go ahead and write it so don't forget about it. And just look at the 2/3 plus 2/3. Well, 2/3 plus 2/3 is how many thirds? 4/3. But 4/3 is an improper fraction, so I need to change it to a mixed number. So 4/3, we know that 1 whole is 3/3. So if I take away 3/3 from my whole, I'm left with 1 more third. So 1 1/3. And then I've got this other whole right here that I'll set aside from earlier. So I've got to put my 1 whole together with my 1 1/3. So I'm going to have a total of 2 1/3. And that's just the total for this part right here. 2 1/3 for both of those days. So now I need to add the 1 1/4 to it. So I've got 1 1/4 plus what I got from my total here, 2 1/3. Okay, so I can go ahead and add my whole numbers. 1 whole and 2 whole is 3 wholes. Now what I've got left to add are my fractions. 1/4 plus 1/3. Now we know we cannot add straight across. Do not add this and tell me that it is 2/7. Because in order to add fractions, you have to have common denominators, right? So we cannot make the 4 a 3, and we can't make the 3 a 4 by multiplying or dividing anything. So we've got to come up with something brand new. So I know what you're already thinking. You're thinking we can use 12. So if I want to turn 1/4 into 12ths, I have to do that by multiplying by what? 3 over 3. So 4 times 3 is 12, and 1 times 3 is 3. So now I've got 1/4 is 3/12. So now I need to do it to 1/3. 1/3 to equal 12. I have to do, to get 3 to equal 12, we have to do times 4. So times 4 over 4. 3 times 4 is 12. 1 times 4 is 4. So now I've got 3/12 plus 4/12. 3/12 plus 4/12 is 7/12. So now I need to put my 7/12 here over with my 3 wholes I got when I added my whole numbers. So my answer would be 3 7/12. So if I come back here on my model, all of this that he has read so far is 3 7/12. So I need to know now how much more it is to get to 4 pages. So I could say, the board's a little wobbly here. I could say 3 7/12 plus what is going to equal 4 pages. Well, we've already got 3 holes, so we don't need any more holes. We just need to know how many 12ths to get to another hole. So 7/12 plus what is going to equal a hole, and we know that a hole is 12/12. So what is it? 7 plus 5/12. So how much does he have left to write? He has 5/12 left to write. So we did this first way by adding up and seeing how much we had left. Some of you may have done this by subtracting down. And you might have said 4 holes minus 1 1/4 minus 2/3 minus 1 2/3. And that's going to tell us how much he has left. Okay, so if we did that, we have a couple of options on this too. We could just go one fraction at a time. Or, since we've got whole numbers, we could take all our whole numbers away because whole numbers are pretty easy to deal with. So we could say 4 minus this whole, I'm going to put an X through it so I don't forget that I've used it, and minus this whole. So 4 minus 1 is 2. So he's got 2, he's down to 2 pages now that we took the 2 holes away. So now we need to subtract the 4th, the 2/3, and the 2/3. Well, like we did earlier, we can combine our thirds. We can say 2/3 plus 2/3 equals 4/3. And we know that 4/3 is 1 1/3. So if we have our 2 holes right here, now we subtract 1 1/3, 2 holes minus 1 1/3. Well, start with just our whole numbers. 2 minus 1 is 1. So now I've got 1, and I need to subtract the third from it. 1 minus 1/3. When you're subtracting fractions, one good strategy if you're not so sure about it is to draw it out on a number line. So if you have your number line and you have one whole, we got to think about it in thirds, is 3/3. So before one whole would be 2/3, before that would be 1/3, and if I'm counting by thirds, before that would be 0. So if I've got one whole and I need to take away a third, here's my whole, take away a third, I'm going to end up at 2/3. So 2 minus 1 1/3 is 2/3. So now I've subtracted this 2/3 and this 2/3. So the only thing left that I need to subtract is my 1/4. I know I've got a lot going on here. It's because I don't have a whole lot of room to write. But remember, the last number I ended at was 2/3. So now I need to take 2/3, and I got to take off the 4th. So 2/3 minus 1/4. Now, like we said earlier, you cannot subtract if they don't have the same denominator, just like with adding. They have to have the same denominator. So we got to change it, and we know we're going to change it to 12ths. So to get 2/3 to equal 12ths, we're going to say times 4/4, because 4 times 3 is 12, so 2 times 4 is 8. So 2/3 is the same thing as 8/12. Now we need to do the same thing with 1/4. So to get 1/4 to equal 12ths, we've got to say times 3/3, because 4 times 3 is 12. And 1 times 3 is 3. So now I have 8/12 and 3/12. And now I can subtract those. We'll just go right here. 8/12 minus 3/12 is 5/12. Same thing I got on my other problem. 5/12. If I would have gotten something different on this problem, what should I do? Go back and rework it, right? Because that means one of my answers is not right if I ended up with 2 different answers. So even though I solved it 2 different ways, I should still get the same answer both ways. So on one strategy, we added up and found what was missing, and the other strategy, we subtracted back to see what was left. So those are two of the ways you could approach this problem. Now, what I want you to do now is you have a problem about a window. And what I want you to do is, oh goodness, I want you to go do your window problem, and then I want you to watch video 2 where I'm going to go over the window problem. But before you watch the video, I want you to solve that problem and work it out. All right.